What's up? James Maslow here, and I'm hanging out with Rob on Front Row Live.
Dude, it's been a long time, and I'm glad to reunite with you this time for your music. You've been working on something for quite some time.
You know, I had to go through a lot to figure out this album, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
By the way, when I got off BTR and even did Dancing with the Stars, had all this press, all the press in the world, I had music.
Yeah.
I've been writing my whole life.
Right.
So I could very well, as you're kind of just talking about off camera, could have put out a song. Could have put out a ton of songs, but none of them felt right. And I'm so glad I didn't, because then I would have been pursuing a genre of music that was not really 100% authentic to what I really want to do. So I had to go live life, have a little bit of self-discovery, work on other stuff, write another 100 songs I'm never going to show anybody, and then finally figured out what I want to talk about, how I want to sound, and from that came How I Like It.
And as you were finding your sound, how did you? Did you already know this is the sound that you wanted? You just didn't know how to really come about it.
Well, I knew that I didn't want to do a pop rock thing, which is kind of how I've always thought of the BTR days music. Right. And I've always sung in a far more soulful fashion. I grew up listening to Donny Hathaway and Sam Cooke and Marvin Gaye, Michael Jackson. Right. That's always what I listen to. It's what I feel is inside of me. And so I knew that I wanted to get there, but how to get there? There were moments in the past few years where I thought, nope, never gonna happen. I think it's in me, maybe it's not, and found it. And now it's all I know how to write right now. Right. It's just I'm writing already the next album, if you will, at least the next single, because it's once you're inspired and you figure it out, there's just no stopping you, and that's how I feel right now.
Yeah, and I think the name is appropriate. How I Like It, and tell me about when you went into the studio with this. I know you recorded in Timbaland's studio.
Yeah, a lot of it.
Did Timbaland help you out on this, or did you work with a different producer? How did this work out?
So I met, who's now one of my best friends, Doug Makuta, who is signed to Timbaland. Doug has a band of his own, is a writer, a producer. He kills it. He writes for the biggest of the big, and he's the most humble person you ever meet. Yeah. And I've worked with a lot of people, but when we met, we clicked. He's cerebral, he's bright, and he understood what I wanted to do. And so it just worked. And because he signed to Timbo, we have the privilege of working there. Yeah. So even though Timbaland, Pharrell, that whole camp, they never touched the music actually, through Doug, they actually got to listen to it all. Dang. And so I got some feedback, some of the most amazing feedback.
Great people behind the team, man.
Yeah, just couldn't be more blessed and lucky about that. Yeah. So end of the day, it really all came from myself, from him. My friends Hilarious Bros did a couple of songs with me, and that's pretty much it on the album. And then we had some nods, either nods yes, like this is the one, or nods like, could use some work. You know what I mean? So it's kind of cool having that in the background.
That's cool. And as you're writing this music, or as you're actually in the studio creating this music, is it any different from the band days? Is it a lot harder than when you were in the studio with the band? Now that you're by yourself, is it a lot easier? What is that like?
That's a double-sided coin for sure. It's harder in the sense that I'm not doing this on a label, so I have to finance everything. Being in the studio can cost money. I've had to figure that out. Beyond that, there's no strict direction. Whereas there were too many cooks in the kitchen before, but it was very much like you come in, you cut the song. It was a machine in many ways. Right. We wrote a lot of it, but it moved more quickly because I had to. That's the part that's harder. I had to figure it all out on my own. But what's better is that I don't have to listen to anybody. Yeah. Nobody told me what to do or how to do it.
Right. It was all yours at the end.
And so that's what it is, man. It took a lot more work to get here, but now it's that much more gratifying because I have an album that I wrote and produced, and I can tell you every little bit about it. Right. And it's validating, man. It's validating now that it's starting to work, that people are starting to listen and show up to shows, and you guys are watching this. It means the world to me, and it's really, really cool.
Now, it's crazy listening to the tracks that you have released so far, and even just listening to you doing the covers. That vocal range, it's not something that we didn't hear back in the day. So it's cool to hear that sound and something that you've obviously been wanting to do for quite some time. But tell me about getting to that sound. How much practice did you have to do with your vocal? How much vocal training did you have to do or change in order to get where you're at today?
I just realized today that I'm turning 27 in a couple of weeks, and that means I've been singing for over 20 years. Man. Which is crazy because that's a big ass number, and I don't feel like I'm that old at all. Right. But I've always leaned towards more poppy and running and all this type, vocal riffs, and I've always kind of been forced not to do it, from choirs to opera to then being in a band where you had to sing more pop rock and sing straight and hold your notes and whatever it is. So I've always conformed, which is not a bad thing because there were lessons in that to sing this other music and other people's music a lot of the time.
Right.
So it took me kind of breaking those habits and realizing that, yo, if I do this, if I want to go whoo as a main line versus just holding it, there's nothing wrong with that. If I like singing like that, then I'm going to have passion behind it. Maybe it's going to work. And that's some of my top lines are really complicated. Some are simple, but most of them aren't. Because to me, that's what's the easiest, weirdly enough.
Wow.
And that's kind of, once I embraced that and said, fuck this, I'm going to just do it the way that it feels natural.
Right.
Then everything kind of came. And now performing live, just a sidebar on that, because everything I sang on the album and wrote was natural when I was in the studio. Live is so much easier for me. So much easier, because I'm not trying to force myself up to a note that shouldn't work. So, dude, I just couldn't be more psyched about right now, this moment, starting to move forward, you know?
Yeah, no, I'm super excited about it. And what else is expected, like, with this music? I know you mentioned this music you've been working on, well, this album you've been working on it, like, the past couple years, or it's the past couple years of your life.
Yeah, it's been at least self-discovery to get there, and the album was about a 6-7 month process of like, holy crap, we kind of got it now, to when it was finished. But yeah, really, last 3 years have been searching for that.
Right.
And so now it's just, we're starting the ball up again, I was in Europe, did the first little promo run a few months ago, played my first real big show in Mexico City that was unbelievable. If you guys are watching, thank you for the support and for showing up.
As you did your first shows as a solo artist, what was that like for you?
Of course, there's a little bit of a learning curve in getting your feet wet, but even from show one, the first show I played in Paris was fun. Seeing people react to music that is this personal to me, I don't think there's anything more rewarding. So it's becoming addicting at this point. All I want to do is keep playing. I literally just played a show right before this for a little digital thing, and it's my favorite thing, man. Like, you asked me to sing for something, I'm like, hell yeah, give me a piano or guitar, or, like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah. No, and you could tell. I mean, you're smiling telling me about this. So it's like that's one thing I enjoy when I'm doing interviews and the artist is telling me about their song, and I know they've talked about it a million times, but it's like that smile is still out there because there's real passion in it.
Well, if you're asking questions, if you care to know more, I mean, I'll talk for days about it because, like I said, every little bit of the music, even on one song, if I've done 50 interviews on a song, there's still more I could tell you about it because it took so much of my life and my time to get into it. It's exciting, and it's cool that people are listening. That's all an artist ever really wants, is to put out music they care about and then have people listen and go, holy crap, like, I could do this for a career,
Right. And over the years, as you've been writing material, how have you seen, like, your writing actually change or grow?
Very much, it's been kind of along the lines of having no restrictions. I've realized that there really are no borders. There's no one way to do anything. You do have some of the biggest writers in the world who kind of have their algorithm, if you will. They know, like, okay, you start on the 1, then you start on the 2 when you go into the pre, and then you need like a simple 4 on the floor pop hook, and like that works for some people. For me, I don't ever want to be that writer or producer. I want to be the person that, if it's for me, whatever I feel that day, whatever inspires me that day or that month or that week, we bring it into the studio. Or if I'm producing for you or someone else, I can start from scratch and go, hey, what's important to you? What are you talking about to your friends right now? What are you thinking about? What message do you want your fans to know? And from that, start from scratch and create something that's unique. And that's what I did with this album, and that's what I want to keep doing. So I've become, I think, a far better writer and producer because of it.
Yeah. And challenges that you faced while writing all this stuff?
Dude,
were you challenged at all, like getting certain things that you talked about out on paper?
Well, one side of that is being objective with your own work, especially the first thing you're going to put out as a solo artist is very tough. Narrowing down the songs of like, this is, I'm my worst critic, right?
Of course.
So there's songs that I'd go, in the studio, in the moment, everything, you're doing for the most part, like, oh, this is dope, and listen later, go, no, that's shit. No, don't want to hear it. And sometimes it is shit. You know what I mean? Can't write a great song every time, but other times it takes an outside voice or my producing partner to go, no, dude, no, there's something here, let's dig into it. And that's, the frustration of being in the studio and writing, but also the beauty of sometimes you go back and you go, dude, you were right. You were right. I was wrong. Like, this is cool. And so that's, that's probably the hardest part, especially being objective with my own music,
Right. And what have you seen the fans, like, so far, what you've released? What have you heard from the fans? Like, what has been the reception? It's
been highly complimentary. my favorite reaction is people going, I had no idea you could sing like this. It really is. Because there's, I don't think a chip on my shoulder is the right way to put it, because I'm not like angry at the world.
Right.
But there is this sense inside of me that goes, yeah, that was cool. I'll never bash BTR, and I loved them. We had some great songs. Yeah. We had so much fun, but it was never what I can do. So now you got that little kid going like, well, I want to show you. I want to show you, know what I mean? Like jumping up, and to be able to just put it out there and have people go, okay, yeah, I get why you're doing this solo thing. To me is rad. I've seen a lot of that, and so thank you guys for the love.
I also love the fact that we were mentioning earlier, all of you guys have so much talent, and you guys are all pursuing your own projects.
Yeah.
But none of those projects sound just like BTR. So I love the fact that you, for example, your audience from BTR can come and enjoy your music, but then you can get older fans as well, because there's no age in the music that you're creating right now. So I think that's like one of the best things right now that you're doing.
It's kind of back to writing without borders, coming with music without borders, Yeah. I mean, look, there are definitely songs that, whether it's blatant or metaphoric, are far sexier than maybe what a little kid should listen to.
Right.
But most of the fans that were BTR fans, we spent so many years in that band. They grew up during that period of time. Then it's been a few years since I created this. Like, they're old enough at this point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I wouldn't say, have your 6-year-old listen to Get You There, one of the songs on my album, which is straight up about making a girl come. And I don't know if we can talk about that in this, if you're going to have to cut this. But it's, there's the classy version of that within the album. That is one of the more blatant. And I love that I have both of those. Yeah, don't play that for your kids. But yeah, the BTR fans who are now damn near my age and older, and then adults can listen to that and go, I can relate to that. Right. Whether it's literally that song or anything else on the album. Yeah, it really, I hope that the BTR fans gravitate towards it. But even more than that, I hope that the rest of the world can listen and go, yo, I get it. I dig it.
Now, with the tracks, is there one that took you the longest to create? Maybe you wrote it, you trashed it, you said it was never going to happen again, and then you brought it back for whatever reason it was?
Yeah, I mean, the two that pop up right away are Worship and Fairy Tale, funny enough. Fairy Tale is now probably my favorite song to play live. Okay. And I didn't feel like it fit like the moodiness and the edge and some of the other songs, but I was like, screw that. Like, sometimes I want to be goofy. Sometimes, I mean, it's still saying that I've been sleeping with a fairy tale. It's still talking about, like, basically fucking the most amazing girlfriend in the world. So at the end of the day, like, it has that message, but it's put in a very up-tempo, fun way. Like, a kid could listen to that and not get that, you know what I mean? And so it's kind of, that one, it really is for everybody. And I'm so glad I put that on the album. And then Worship, man, I wrote that, actually, that was one of the ones that wasn't with Hilarious Bros, or the only one wasn't with Hilarious Bros or Doug Makuda, my buddy Blake Healy. We went in and kind of created a version of it. Okay. And it was pretty dope, but just wasn't quite right. And then we're like, we liked it and didn't like it. I mean, it was probably 6 months or 8 months. I went back in. Another homie, Alex Duncan, the only other person that's on the album, on that one song, kind of came and just flipped around the top line a little bit. Then we all kind of went, yo, this is pretty dope now.
That's what it needed.
Yeah, I mean, it's the most brutal thing, writing music, going back to it, trying to make something work. Because a lot of times you can't fit, a square peg in a round hole. Sometimes you sand it down enough, and it is meant to be there. Yeah.
And creating this, like, how many tracks did you end up, like, saying, hey, these are my favorite from all of the ones that I wrote, and then you chose how many songs for the album? 11, 12?
12. Well, there's 11, then I created an acoustic version of Cry. It's a partner with Mission Saver, the charity I'm now part of.
Which is, it's amazing that you were able to do that with your song.
I'm psyched about it. I'm glad that was my first look. We are in, prepping and in treatments for some, like, more traditional, well, hopefully none of it's traditional, but more big, dope music videos, sexy music videos. Right. But I'm really psyched that while I'm still putting that together, I could use my music for a cause bigger than me, which is, bringing awareness to human trafficking, how prevalent and horrifying it is. Right. And that's dope. But then, of course, working on the first, big music video, and we're figuring that out now.
Right. What is it about Cry that you wanted to make that one of the first releases?
Oh, also, we didn't answer. I probably had like 25 songs and narrowed down to 12, but of like hundreds. Honestly, I loved how we ended up finding this kind of trap sound with Cry. City Fidelia featuring on it, he's so dope. He's got such underground cred. I loved it. There are a bunch of aspects to it. I think the biggest one was that if I were on a label, I just had this feeling that they would not have let me release that as a first single.
Really?
Yeah, because it's a grown-ass man saying, I just want to cry. That's not necessarily relatable to most of the world. They're going to think it from a marketing standpoint. They're going to think, like, what makes money? That's not what it's about for me right now. It was about, yo, I love this song. It is one of the most personal songs I've ever written. It was the first song that I wrote that made the album. It kind of sets the sonic palette, and it's super unexpected. Yeah. I was like, hell yeah. And mind you, it's not like everything right now is not huge single. It's more like a focus track. We'll put out another focus track. Right. Yeah, I'm psyched I went with it. I mean, I love that song.
Now you mentioned label. There's no label behind you right now. Is that something that you want to try and do on your own? You want to try to be the unsigned artist and do everything independently? Or do you still want to try and find a label out there?
Well, I would not have been able to accomplish and create what I created if I were on a label. I don't think, because I would have been working with their producers and their writers. Right. And hey, maybe it would have been better, but I did try that for a while, and it wasn't better. Right. So I'm psyched I did it up until now. Having said that, shit gets expensive when it's all coming out of your pocket. And, you know, music takes time, man. I have some friends who are, you know, I hear stories, and they've got like a #1 song in the world right now. They're like, dude, haven't made a cent yet. You know, or like, you know, they're just so in debt to the label because the label spent millions of dollars. Like, yeah, dude, my song's made $1 million, and I'm still in debt $3 million. And I didn't want to be there. But I want to split the difference eventually upstream to maybe a label, maybe a minor, to get someone, you know, I think eventually, especially in the pop game, you do need financial support. Right. And, you know, we'll have those conversations when it makes sense. Right. But until then, I just want to organically get more people to listen, share it, hopefully love it, and build a story that way. So then, hell, I want labels asking me.
There you go. Now, what's next for you right now? Aside from Rising Star, do you have any more projects that you're working on?
Yeah, so obviously figuring out the music videos for this music is the next thing. I'm still writing, and, you know, we may even drop a couple singles here and there on top of the album just for fun. Yeah. Looks like I might be filming another movie coming September, but we're don't like talking about things until they're there. And then I've got a movie called Bachelor Lions that looks like it's going to come out somewhere this summer. Once again, I don't know, but that was a lot of fun. Mitchell Musso plays my co-star. David Arquette plays my dad. It's kind of like an action comedy. It was fun. Nice. So keeping it all moving. And then even YouTube, I decided to start putting up consistent content again, which I didn't for like a year and a half. Right. So I am excited because it's another opportunity just to create. So from music videos to even, you know, I shot a adventure video in Maui, and then this morning I shot a workout video with.
Yeah, I see you've been doing a lot of those.
Yeah, well, dude, I'm on the cover of Men's Health Mexico, which just came out.
Congratulations!
Today. Thank you, bro. So that's just always been a part of my life, and I've realized that like my fans keep asking me questions like, "Hey, what do you eat? What do you do? Where do you travel to?" Which I never really showed before. So now to me, it's like, yo, like even though music and acting, those are my things. Right. I'm gonna make videos about more stuff because y'all seem to like it, and it's fun for me. So
I'm curious how you keep that going while you go on tour again.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's hard to do a lot of things, but I get bored quickly, so I just sleep less. But yeah, sometimes things have to take a back seat, and that's part of the reason YouTube did for so long. Now I'm just being a little more strategic. I got a better team behind me to help backlog some stuff. And you know, like even on tour, you know, I'm gonna put out something from the Mexico City show pretty soon. Yeah, I just, you know, hired a homie like, yo, come and join me for the day, film everything, and we're gonna edit some behind the scenes stuff later, which I love. To me, that's the type of stuff I'd like to see from an artist, and that's why I'm putting it out for my fans.
Well, no, and in between singles, you get to see that. I mean, the Instagram video and, you know, the Snapchat works here and there, but with these videos, there's always fans that always go back to them for whatever reason it is.
Sure. Well, when you're the artist and you're there, you don't feel like it's anything special, right? You're like, oh, I'm in another catering room, in another, you know, back in the day arena or club or whatever it is. But to a fan, and especially a fan who's like, oh my God, I live there and I know that club or I know that, I've realized how important it is to them. Right. And so it's just a behind the scenes glimpse that, you know, I can now share. It's so easy to just film stuff and put it up that they seem to really dig. And I love that they comment and give me feedback on everything, you know? Right.
Now, I had asked a few fans if they had specific questions for you.
Alrighty.
And one of them was actually, which I had completely forgotten about. You guys had One Direction open up for you guys. Yeah. Back in the day. First. What was that like?
Yeah, so when 1D first came to the States, we were the first tour they jumped on. And it was cool. I mean, it was the first time we had ever experienced, you know, because our band was pretty big. Any opener, you know, they'd get applause and cheers, but they wouldn't get like the pandemonium and get that fandemonium that we would. And, you know, they were growing. So we'd actually have an audience that were like rooting for 1D to come out. we still had more of an audience for us at that time
Right.
for our shows. They were sold out before they even came on the tour. But it was kind of crazy. We're like, oh, yo, these guys are making a splash. You know what I mean? But I thought it was great, man. They were just super chill kids. I say kids because at the time they were, 18, 19.
Right, they were young.
And they came from Europe where, like, they can drink. And on here, we're, like, sneaking them beers. You know what I mean? Like, so funny. It was rad because they were just all happy to be doing it. And I still see him out here and again. I saw Niall the other day just in the studio and ran into Louis at like One Oak randomly the other night. Dude, they just come give you a big hug. Like they're just psyched to be doing what they're doing, Honestly, never one time. Like I'd be honest about it if somebody was a dick or whatever, it changed. Like I don't hang with them every day these days, but like they were just cool. They were just chill, just wanted to do their thing.
Yeah. And just like you had opportunity, or you gave them opportunities like that, is there any opportunity or any collaborations that you would want to do, maybe for a tour, maybe for some music?
Absolutely. The way that my ego works, and I think it's very much an ego thing, is I would never ask them for a favor as an opportunity if something made sense where they would get value out of it too.
Right.
For example, like, oh, the music starts to work. Holy shit, people are getting it, discovering it. My name makes more sense and carries value as a solo artist now.
Right.
And then Niall goes, dude, I'd love to have you opening because it's going to bring some tickets. Then that mutually beneficial situation, I'd go, hell yeah. Like, I love you, homie. This would be fun.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't ask quite yet. Yeah.